There's a fury to ecstasy, and the fury must be embraced regardless of what it appears to people who are stuck in the ego. Otherwise, the ego cannot be broken through. Ecstasy always brings a fury. It's not a cheap, typical, egoic, projected anger, which is what everybody who is stuck in the ego will project it to be. There's a fury, there's a frenzy that comes through as an expression of ecstasy in the flesh through the vehicle of the mind, expressing itself to the violence, to the destruction, to the wrath, to the hatred, to the evil, in the sense of the corruption, the violence, the absolute brutality of the world that is generated of the ignorance of self. When you are ignorant, when one is ignorant of oneself, the only consequence of that ignorance expressly can be violence, cruelty, bitterness, contempt for life, jadedness, cynicism, hatred, absolute violation of everything that is human. And the frenzy, the fury of ecstasy must come through and bring an end to all of that. It cuts the head off the beast once and for all. And that must be allowed to express itself. As it expresses itself through you, it expresses itself out into the world. Your own head must be taken off before other people's heads can be taken off through you. That's how it works. The medicine must be drunk here before it can be drunk anywhere else. The mead of poetry, the soma, the nectar of eternal life must first be drunk here. Otherwise, it can't be drunk by anybody else, anywhere, anytime. It must be drunk here, and the fury of that, the ecstasy of that, the frenzy of that cannot be denied. And it is not a violent frenzy. It comes through very fierce and very intense. You could call it, I don't even want to use the word wrath in the sense of divine wrath, but it is linked to the wrathful Buddhas. But this is that frenzy that expresses the absolute disgust and disdain and distaste with all acts of violence, with all acts of hatred that come from the ignorance of the mind, people dividing themselves into nonsense categories like gender and race and religion and nationality and caste and creed. It's all trash. It's all utter garbage, and it must be pointed out. It must be seen. It must be understood. And there's no way to tiptoe around it. And there's a culture of politicking in the spiritual world whereby we dance around what needs to be directly and clearly spoken to and pointed to in order to keep people comfortable in their egos so they can continue pretending to be spiritual while not actually being spiritual. In fact, the more people talk about all the accoutrements of spirituality, the more they go on about the chakras and balancing the chakras and opening this chakra and doing this meditation and that meditation and being a particular star seed from this particular galaxy. I'm not saying that that stuff doesn't have a validity in some dimension, but fuck it. You are what you are, and what you are is written into the very fabric, not only of your body, but of your fucking being, of your soul, of the indelible and irrevocable essence of who and what you really are. And you can't deny that. You can't fight that. You can't give that up. No matter what happens, it cannot be covered. It cannot be tamed. It cannot be made to be anything other than what it is. So you don't even need to have an image of yourself as a star seed or as a galactic being or as royalty or as a god or a goddess. You don't need the image. You are that. You are what you are without the image. And the image is simply a cheap play toy. It's a token. It's a stepping stone. And when you finally step into reality, you have to cash in all the tokens. You have to give in, trade in all the tokens to stand here in the reality, which is tokenless, markless, crestless, nameless, formless, containing and owning all forms, speaking all form into being. That's the essence of this formlessness. All form comes from it and returns to it. And so you cannot sit here and say that you are a man or a woman or black or white or a god or a devil. You can't say such things. It has no meaning. That's all your psychological nonsense. And until you see it, you don't see it. Until you get it, you don't get it. And the fury must come through and speak this with all fervor, with all emotion, with all energy right here. There's no attempt to convert anybody, but the head must be taken off the beast. There must be no wiggle room allowed. Everybody must face the fact that they are backed into a corner. I can't back you into a corner. You're already backed into a corner. And this is the voice proclaiming it. This is the voice making the invisible visible so that you come to understand that you're already backed into a corner and you have no choice but surrender. And if you don't surrender, then it'll feel like friendly fire. It'll feel like you're getting taken out. And you are getting taken out, but you're getting taken out in the only way you can get taken out, which is egoically, psychically, mentally, and you must be taken out. You must be taken out completely. You must be totally destroyed in the old self, in the conception of self. The whole chain of memories that creates that structure that you call ego must dissolve. You must see its futility. You must see its uselessness. You must see that it is not the truth of who and what you really are, or who anybody is for that matter. It's not what you are. You are eternal spirit. You are eternal being. You have no gender. You contain all gender. You have no race. You contain all race. You have no species. You contain all species. You have no planet. You contain all planets. You have no galaxy. You contain all galaxies. You have no universe. You contain all universes. You have no timeline. You contain all timelines. You have everything. You contain everything. You want nothing. You lack nothing. There's nothing missing, nothing broken. The mind is broken irrevocably. And if you let the mind be, it simply dissolves. Under the weight of its own physics, it dissolves. And there's nothing left but a sparkling, scintillating glory of eternal freedom, which is the very nectar of immortality, which is God itself here, unnamed and unnameable. And you can't fight it, you can't contrive it, you can't twist it, you can't do anything about it. And this has to be said and has to be spoken. We can't sit here with false voices held high in our throats pretending that love and light is something other than what it is. Love is destruction to everything that is false, and it does the work of itself. Nothing has to be artificed. The truth is told. And it doesn't help anybody to sweep what's true under the rug or to sweep the falseness under the rug. You can't sweep it under the rug. You have to face it. You have to face it. You have to face the whole content of the mind from the beginning to the end of time. You have to face everything from the beginning to the end of time. You have to feel all suffering of every being that's ever walked this earth, that ever will walk this earth from the beginning to the end of time. And more than that, you have to feel everything, every emotion, every feeling, every thought. You have to feel everything all at once. And it will feel like you're going to explode and like you can't contain it, and you have to keep holding it. You have to keep going. And when it reaches 100% max capacity, it will explode, it will burst into pure ecstasy. And it will not be fucking fun getting there. It will hurt. It will hurt like a motherfucker. It will hurt. It hurts on the way to ecstasy. It hurts on the way to God. It hurts on the way to truth. It hurts because you have to feel all the suffering that you have ever inflicted on anybody, and that has ever been inflicted on you, and that anybody has ever inflicted on anybody else. You have to feel it. There's no other way into truth. There's no other way into consciousness. There's no other way into compassion. You have to feel everything. You have to feel everything so you know what it is. You have to taste a drop of everything so you know what it is. And you drink that draught all at once. It's a single shot. It's a single draught. But you have to empty the vessel. You have to drink every last drop. You have to empty the container. You can't leave anything. You have to drain the whole cup. The whole cup. It doesn't matter what the content is. You have to fucking drink it. It doesn't matter what it feels like. You have to fucking drink it. And it will feel like you're going to die, and you have to keep drinking. You have to go through that process, and it will feel like you're going to die. Most people stop there because they're afraid. You have to go through it. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be fun. The path to ecstasy is wrought with pain and agony and suffering. But once you taste that ecstasy, the suffering dissolves and it's gone. And you can choose to go back in and feel the suffering if you want to, but you don't have to. You're not obligated to ever suffer again. You can if you choose to. And this is the liberation. This is the freedom. Do you take it or don't you take it? It's your choice. But you've got to make it. No one can make it for you. And you don't have the right to keep dumping your karmic load onto other people while continuing to play the martyr about it. If you're going to carry the load, carry the damn load yourself. And if you're done with it, put it down and give it back to the earth. Nobody has any obligation to carry a karmic load. You can drop the whole goddamn thing right now and be done with it. Give it back to the earth, it dissolves, and you're free. You have two options. You either willingly give up your karmic burden, you drop it, and don't ask anybody to carry it for you. You put it down. The trouble is, you don't want to get rid of it, but you don't want to carry it. You don't get that option. That's evil. That's called being a vampire. That's being a narcissist. That's killing someone else, using someone else's blood, so that you can maintain your illusion. You don't get that option here. Not if you want to be spiritual or enlightened. You either carry the damn thing until it crushes you completely, and then you dissolve into a dust, into a powder, and then you come into consciousness, or you deliberately say, I'm going to put it down now, and you drop it 100%, and then you come into consciousness. You either put it down willingly or you get crushed by it completely. Either way, it's gone. And you come into consciousness. But stop giving it to other people. Stop trying to offload it onto other people. And don't take anybody else's. Peace.